Good morning. I didn't hear any response to that, did you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples, and then that would be you. So, welcome. My name is Tony Fisher. I serve this congregation as minister. I have a lot of things to be grateful for. First of all, it's so uplifting to stand out front and welcome all of you to the congregation every Sunday morning. It is, stand out there with Stephanie, and both of us feel uplifted when we're out there just saying hello. So thank you for that. Do we have any first or second time visitors with us this morning who are feeling courageous and would wave their hands? Good morning and welcome. Great to see you. Grateful to have you. For those of you online or on the pavilion, always good to have you with us as well. I'm especially grateful that we have Dave Dust with us again this morning. We haven't given an intro to Dave for a while. Dave, originally from St. Louis, but grew up mostly around Cincinnati, arrived in Florida and Sanibel Island about 1988. He's a professional musician. He's been playing in venues and studios across Florida and also a little bit across the country. He played with Abby and Sean at a congregation on Sanibel for a long time. He brings a lot to our services, and we're grateful to have him. Today, he is sponsored by Joe de Bisogno and Brentley Bisogno Moore in honor of Brentley's dad, William Brent Moore, who passed away in 2020. So welcome, Dave. It's good to have you. I'm also grateful that I am sharing this service with Janet Hoffman, somebody I admire quite a bit, and welcome, Janet.
Well, thank you, Tony. And this morning, we're going to be talking about conflict and how we deal with it. Conflict is a natural and inevitable part of life. We are individuals living in community, and there's bound to be differences in opinion. For the most part, we do pretty well. We're a fairly healthy congregation. So when you think about living into our mission statement, that we are a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth, and striving to build a wider community of peace, justice, and love, you would think that we would have a healthy and compassionate way of dealing with the conflicts that inevitably arise. But we don't. So today, we're going to start that conversation. But for now, let's take a deep breath and settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
Won't you come to the circle, listen to our tales. You will find you're not the only one who's hurting, and the light will shine in. This is where we begin, the magic work of our healing. You are not unimportant, we need all the words and the new melodies to harmonize. The darker the shadows, the brighter the sun, and your tears are the stars in our eyes. But won't you come to the circle, listen to our tales. You will find you're not the only one who's hurting, and the light will shine in. This is where we begin, the magic work of our healing. But won't you come to the circle, listen to our you'll find you're not the only one who's hurting, and the light will shine in. This is where we begin, the magic work of our healing, the magic work of our healing.
We gather this morning as one community, a community united by common ideals: love, justice, diversity, freedom, mutual care, equity. Yet look around. Look at the faces of those around you this morning. Each face represents a unique individual. Each one of us with our own story, our own needs, our own strengths, our own faults. We light our chalice this morning honoring those individual and unique lives, but also our connection as a community. Please join me in the chalice lighting response that you'll see on the screen and in your order of service. And then Kathy Summers will light our chalice. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, Here We Have Gathered. Words will be on the screen. It is number 360 in the hymnal.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
So we thought we would, in thinking about this service, we would divide it up into two sections, two separate conversations. In the beginning, why don't we just start, for goodness sakes?
So, So, Tony, some of us are aware that you spent the last summer finishing up graduate certification in conflict transformation. And I'm curious as to why you did that and what you learned.
Well, I learned once again that 5 courses in one subject is really only enough to skim the surface. I wanted to study conflict transformation for 2 important reasons. One is that there is so much conflict and division in the world, and I thought that if I could gain at least some tools in dealing with conflict, I might be able to help at some point when called, if called, to do that. The other reason is that, unlike most of you probably, I am conflict averse. And so I wanted to confront that aspect of my own personality and see if I could sort of improve that sort of discomfort.
And how did that work out?
Well, as I said, I'm still learning. But what I did learn, sort of really up front, as I sort of dove into these courses, was first of all that, as Janet mentioned earlier, conflict is natural and inevitable. It arises all the time in our lives, and unfortunately, we don't often handle it all that well. Sometimes we do. But sometimes, because we are averse to conflict, we sort of shy away from engaging in positive ways, and therefore we let things sort of linger and sometimes fester, so that that creates a little bit more harm as time goes on when we're not resolving and not addressing a situation. And that can create deeper divides, and you just have to look at our country to see how that works. We tend to see, and I'm generalizing, so I tend to see conflict as a negative when we really could look at it very much as a natural event and a possibility, presents possibilities and opportunities for growth and change.
So what is exactly conflict transformation?
Well, conflict transformation, as opposed to conflict mediation or resolution, has to do with trying to see possibilities beyond the obvious. What outcomes might we get to eventually that could benefit all, but not necessarily meet the current wishes of either party in a conflict? So the idea is to look broadly at a situation and try to understand it as fully as possible from personal, relational, cultural, societal elements, and analyze that. You basically understand the who, what, where, when, why, hows of a conflict. So who are the stakeholders, and what are the issues, the causes, and the consequences? Why are people involved, and what are their motivations? How are people influencing the situation? Where does the power lie? What's the context, the location, over in a geographically or over time? So the when of it, when is this happening, in what historical context, and what are the stories, what are the narratives that people have about it? So, and what's the history? So conflict transformation is about researching and asking questions over and over until solutions begin to bubble up. And it's not the same, as I said, as conflict mediation or resolution. But in terms of our topic today, it is I'm stepping on a question you might have, though, but I think I'm talking too long.
All right, so how does that relate with restorative practices?
I took a course in restorative justice, restorative practices this summer, and basically it's a question of scale. Conflict transformation really tries to, it can work on any level, but ultimately the study of conflict transformation has to do with resolving large conflicts in larger contexts. They share, conflict transformation and restorative justice share some ideals, trying to work towards a solution that works for all. And some of the tools. Sharing stories is one of the key elements of both these practices. But I think, again, a restorative justice tries to heal specific harms, inequities, and injustice in a smaller setting, I think. That's my sense of it.
Well, that's making me think of who started the restorative circle practice that I learned about, and that was Dominic Barter, who lived in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and saw all the drug gang-related violence and wanted to stop it. So he went into the community and he developed a process and he worked on it until it came to the point where the agreed upon actions were followed through over 90% of the time. And these are people that didn't know anything about mediation, healthy conversation. They were harming each other, violent. And he created that change.
Wow. And that aligns with some of the stories I heard in my studies. It was a great story brought to our class by a guest who talked about a restorative community being built within a school setting. And, starting each day with circles and conversations about sort of, deepening into the day together, sharing where they are as the day starts out, gathering in circles throughout the day when it seems appropriate, and definitely using circles to deal with some of the conflicts that arise. She told the story about walking down, she was an administrator in this school, so told a story about walking down the hallway and witnessing two girls sort of really going at it verbally with each other. And one of them actually started to rear back and engage in some physical violence and stop and say, "We need a circle." So building the expectation that this is how you resolve issues is really important, and it's a cultural thing, and you have to build that culture, but it can be done. It's been done in communities like Leeds, England, where the whole community has tried very hard to do this, and as you say, in Rio de Janeiro. So, I think with those examples and with an idea generally of what we're talking about this morning, let's center ourselves with this morning's centering hymn, which is Building Bridges. And we haven't sung this for a few years, so we're going to sing it through together twice. You can stay seated. Sean will start us off. If you know the song, then chime in the second time. And then, because you're so good at this now, we're going to do a round.
Sounds good.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Beautiful. Thank you. This is the time in our service where we have an opportunity to share with one another in community those things that are bubbling up inside, our joys or our sorrows, those things of a personal nature, not of events or of announcements, but something that you're holding within. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you'd like to share, I hope you'll raise your hand. I'll bring you the microphone. Tell us your name and briefly what's in your heart. I can share with you that this week Bill Green went into the hospital. He had actually sponsored our guest musician last Sunday and was unable to be here. He had a collapsed lung, among a couple of other things. But he was released from the hospital on Thursday and is at home. He has folks with him in his home here. It sounds like he may be going home to Maryland fairly soon, but we'll keep you updated on that. Joys and sorrows, thank you. Anyone this morning? Oh. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning. I'm Diane Keys. I just want to say thank you. I wasn't here last Sunday to give you a great thank you for coming out to the MLK Day Parade in such a large number. I'm so appreciative of the Unitarian Universalist congregation, the love and everything that you give to us in this community. We have a sorrow, one of the young ladies that performed in the parade. She was on the program, Taniqua Smith. I don't know if you guys saw the accident that happened on Immokalee Road.
Oh, yeah.
But she was the one in that accident, and she passed away. She was only 27 years old, and she worked for the city. She taught the kids how to swim. She was this aquatic supervisor. So that's a real sorrow for us that we lost her. And she lost her grandmother the Friday. So her grandmom had passed, and she was traveling back and forth from Immokalee.
Wow.
So it's a real sorrow for the community. Thank you.
And our hearts to you and the community, definitely. And our gratitude to you for organizing the parade and all the events on that day. Anyone else this morning?
Thank you. I'm Richard, and joys and sorrows both. I've enjoyed the 3 months I've been here in person, in service, and under Sean and Abby's tutelage in the choir, and leaving here soon, earlier than expected, earlier than planned. So the sorrow is that I won't be here in person, but I will be here virtually. So this will be a good thing, I guess.
You guess. Well, we're sorry to see you go, Richard. An addition both to the congregation and the choir, so thank you for that.
I'm Melanie Wicker. I have a joy. I have 2 sons, an older son that was always very popular and high achieving, as the older one usually is, and then a younger one who grew up in his shadow and struggled a lot growing up, went through a lot. I won't go into details, but sometimes I would say to him, are you sure you don't want to go to college? He had gone to 4 different colleges and never went past a first semester. So he would say, no, I just don't see it, no. And then last year, as he's continued with his growth, he all of a sudden knew that he wanted to go back to college and become a psychologist. And I wanted to read you the text that he sent me because it just made me so happy. First class officially done. It went well. We will have quizzes on both Freud's, Jung, Adler, Erickson, and Myers-Briggs this semester, and Skinner, Carl Rogers, etc. I'm just so happy that he got to this place. And, you know, he did it pretty much by himself. So, yeah, him and his higher power worked hard.
Thank you, Melanie. Absolutely.
I always love an opportunity to have a mic. My name is Myrtle October, and when I walked in, I was just felt so welcome. So this is a joy, and it's so bright and beautiful in here, and all of your faces as well. And I just wanted to say one of the joys of life in general is just being able to meet all people all over and connect with people like you guys who have the good in mind and thinking through all the things, because of course I had to do research before I came. And I'm like, this is a great church. I wish it wasn't so far because I'm about 30, 40 minutes away. But my name is Myrtle October, and I was invited by Sam Black and her husband, and I do appreciate being here. Thank you all so much.
And welcome. Great to see you. Thank you so much.
I thought long and hard about standing up. My son's partner, Thomas, of 27 years, will be receiving a bone marrow transplant this week at Sloan Kettering. And the man who will be administering it administered it to the newscaster, Robin Roberts, who survived. And I watched, because the boys don't want me there. They don't want germs. I watched Robin Roberts' journey on a YouTube yesterday, and this doctor that Thomas has said a prayer as he was offering the stem cells. And I thought, well, let's see what this group can help me do. The stem cells are flying over from Germany, and I just hope it's not on a Boeing with an open...
Daphne Whitman, thank you so much, and our hopes and our prayers go with you. Let's settle ourselves into a time of meditation. Spirit of life and love, God of our deepest understanding, let's take this time together to be open to forgiveness and be forgiven. Let us be open to diversity and be accepted. Let us be open to expression and be understood. Let us be open to awareness and be known. Let us be open to sharing, to exchange, to possibility, to awakening, and be hopeful. Let us be open to gratitude and be blessed. Let's take some time together in silence.
Time If I am not for me, who will be? If I am just for me, what does that make me? And if not now, then when? If not now, then when? This time through on the English, please join in if you want. If I am not for me, who will be? If I am just for me, what does that make me? And if not now, then when? If not now, then when?
This is a reading from Growing a Beloved Community. Healthy churches heed what Native American activist Catherine Atla calls a big law of respect. A respectful church is one where boundaries are kept, saboteurs are confronted, crises are faced, and good behavior is expected. Parishioners are urged from the moment they sign the membership book to engage one another with active gaze and a level glance. No, it reaches even further back than that. Respect must be evident in the details of the church organization and programming from the moment a newcomer crosses that threshold. In a healthy church, members are always asking, what does it mean to practice a kinder regard? Whether we are engaged in religious education or social action, maintenance or leadership development, liturgy or fundraising. Indeed, what would it take us to see the holy or the divine in each person with whom we tussle with in congregational life? The Hindu salutation, Namaste, roughly translates as, I honor that which is sacred within you, or that place where you and I are one. Practice saying that to yourself as you greet, engage, and tangle with the folks in your faith community for a day, for a week, for always.
I talk to is ready to leave with the light of the morning. They've seen the end coming down long enough to believe that they've heard their last warning. Standing alone, each has his own ticket in his hand. Descends, I sit thinking about every man. I've always been looking for some other place to get it together, where we with a few of my friends I could give up the race and maybe find something better. But all my fine dreams, well thought out schemes to gain the motherland, have all eventually come down to waiting for every man. Waiting here for every man. Make it on your own if you think you can. You see somewhere to go, I understand. Waiting here for every man. Don't ask me if he'll show. Baby, I don't know.
Jackson Brown's first appearance on our order of service. Awesome, thank you. So Janet, you have been also pursuing some opportunities for education. What can you tell us about restorative practices and restorative circles?
Well, restorative practices are about love, about loving yourself and standing up for yourself without harming others. It involves connecting and caring for others by listening and truly working to understand them. Restorative circles is a specific process that uses specific guidelines and questions to do that process.
So how would you start the process? How would you start a restorative circle when two or more people are particularly upset with one another?
I made him ask that question because I thought some people might get worried. But you meet separately first with a facilitator, and so that gives the facilitator a chance to understand the situation, and it also gives the people involved a chance to vent and let out their feelings.
So what was it that motivated you? I mean, I know you, and I know you live more than anybody I know, according to your faith and your worldview. But what motivated you to take these courses in restorative circles and this summer?
Well, many reasons. Like Tony, I am also conflict averse and said, Janet, it's time to grow up. But also I see the harm. I see the relationships damaged when conflict is unresolved. And also because I've seen the transformational nature of restorative practices, circles, and justice. I saw like a case with a murderer talking with the family, and the change and the willingness to even form a relationship afterwards. It was so powerful.
And that mirrors a number of the sort of stories, examples that I heard, not just this summer, but over the past few years in my courses. The power of connection. It does take people, people have to be willing to enter into this thing. But I mean, you talked a little bit about what happens when we don't do this, but what would you say are some examples of what happens when we just sort of step away from conflict?
Well, I see people are holding in their feelings, and that's not healthy. Anger will just simmer, and it will build up. Resentment grows. And At restorative practices, what's important is the relationship. And so if we don't do something, that relationship gets harmed.
And why restorative circles as opposed to any other modality for something like this?
Well, other methods may be fine, but having a process that strengthens our ability to face conflict and not ignore it, I think is important, no matter what we use. But a restorative process can help shift that culture to being willing to deal with it. I particularly really like restorative circles because they are transformative, because it is a dialogue process that's very powerful. People feel heard, people feel listened to, and it changes them. Even people that came in angry, maybe even with some hate, I have seen be changed from this process.
You shared a couple of examples. What are maybe another sort of large example of what you've seen?
Well, I did see on a documentary government officials and citizens from Nepal. There had been war, and they worked together. And just through the movie, you could see the government officials having a better understanding of what the citizens were going through, and vice versa. It was very transformative. I've also helped with restorative justice practices in Lee County, and there's a teen who has committed a crime, and he is held accountable and truly understands the harm that he has done by this process, and usually does not commit another crime.
So you chose to be trained through the Nonviolent Communications Academy. Why? So when did this happen, and why did you choose that avenue?
Well, you don't have to be familiar with nonviolent communication to do a restorative circle, but I kept hearing it mentioned. And to be really effective with each other, we need to listen with our heart. And the philosophy of nonviolent communication is that we all have the same universal needs, that conflict comes when our strategies to get these needs met interferes with each other. But it really focuses on the importance of dialogue and reflective listening, as does the restorative circle.
Mm-hmm. And your example of Nepal sort of moves into the area of conflict transformation, so you can begin to see the overlap. We haven't talked at all, and we didn't talk in advance about sort of what we're talking about as an alternative. We are living, and we're sort of comfortable, I guess, with the idea in our criminal justice system of an adversarial, punitive approach to either what you call crime or when somebody causes harm. So in our natural judicial system, if somebody causes harm, the state sort of takes the role immediately as a stand-in for the victim. The victim often just gets pushed aside and may be a material witness, but often isn't then consulted. The state becomes the person or the institution harmed, and it's a very adversarial situation. People arguing against one another, it's one side or the other, and there's often a punitive damages, either incarceration or something else in our system. And restorative justice in that framework is really trying to create something more human, more compassionate, very different than what we're used to in our criminal justice system. How has learning about nonviolent communication changed you in your life?
Well, not always, but now when I am in a conflict, I am more likely to think about what is that person's needs and what are my needs, and focusing on that. And then because I'm focusing on that, I'm not as likely to get as angry, and when I'm not as angry, I am more able to communicate and problem solve and strategize ways to meet both of our needs and to continue to have a healthy relationship with that person.
Not easy.
No.
No, especially for us as conflict-averse people. But obviously, it does take an ability to create a moment where you're able to take a breath and not step fully away, but step back from the immediate response, or at least after you've had that immediate response, then take a breath and be able to say, maybe we need a circle. So.
Conflict, oh my. The sweaty brow, the tight stomach, the clenched fist, the red face. That is how I used to see conflict. Now I understand conflict as a basic natural part of life. We all have our own style of dealing with it. Some of us are fearful and avoid it. Others enjoy it because it's stimulating and energizing. Yes, this is true. Conflict can develop in several ways. It can come from judgments that are made about a person or a group. We have been raised in a society that taught us to judge others. Distrust gets developed, and that can make conflict more likely. It can also come from the strategies or actions that we use to meet our needs. And an example of that is I might have a need for quiet, and that would interfere with somebody else's strategy for stimulation or humor. So conflict is just a regular part of life.
Most of us were raised to think that conflict is bad. Like some of us, like myself, have been scared of it, quite honestly, and would find ways, in whatever way we can, to avoid it. While conflict can be painful, avoidance only exacerbates the problem. Tension and resentment can build and harm relationships. We're not feeling right, and we're not then showing our authentic selves when we use avoidance. Our feelings get bottled up. We get mired in our emotions. We lose our sense of balance. When our feelings are compromised, we're not able to think as clearly or as creatively. It makes us hard to maintain our boundaries. Ignoring issues like this creates tensions which affect us physically and also externally and tend to escalate. We can get headaches. We can feel it here in our abdomen. We might have insomnia. Our health can be harmed.
On the bright side, conflict can be a gift, really. Conflict can include eye contact, hand touching, head nodding. We need each other. We are independent. Disagreeing with one another has the potential for deeper listening and deeper conversations that build a stronger relationship. Conflict is an opportunity to learn and to grow about ourselves and others. We develop curiosity about the other person and the issue. Because we live in a pluralistic society, we will never agree on everything. Dealing with a disagreement helps develop our creativity and problem-solving abilities. Looking at more than one side of an issue provides better solutions. Working on a conflict is a chance to work on our own needs and on the needs of others. It is being humble and knowing we all make mistakes. It is an opportunity to look at our mistakes as a learning opportunity. Working with a conflict is valuing the relationship and saying, "You're important to me. You matter." Engaging in conflict shows the other person that you want to learn more about them. Conflict can bring greater connection, deeper respect, and stronger love. It really doesn't have to be a clenched fist or a tight stomach. Conflict can be a container of courage and compassion, wrapped with bright, colorful paper and glossy ribbon.
How we choose to be with one another in community should reflect that idea of a gift to be opened. Part of the gifts we share here are the values that guide our relationships individually and collectively. First, we acknowledge that and celebrate the fact that we are diverse in our opinions and in the way we go about our lives. Given that, we know that conflicts will arise. And on the other hand, we want to be open to transformation, the possibility of being changed by every encounter, and not to hold too rigidly to one way of thinking or of doing things.
To fully enjoy the gift of these shared values, to live them in community requires intentionality. What are the ways that we can do this? What are some simple practices we could incorporate into what we do already to build a restorative community that responds in positive and healthy ways to the inevitable conflicts that will arise?
We hope this service will be the beginning of a conversation. As we hope you'll join us on Wednesday evening this week, Janet and I will be working, providing some exercises, some information to continue this conversation and help begin to build some tools and community building for working forward with a restorative community. Thank you, Janet, very much for
And thank you.
this whole thing.
All right, thank you. As we take time to reflect on today's service, let's also take time to show our gratitude for this community and all that it is and all that it does. This morning's offering will be gratefully received. And if you're online, please consider sending a contribution today. The information you need to donate is on the screen. Thank you.
One quick word of introduction about this tune. This is a song that David Wilcox wrote during, I believe, during the AIDS epidemic. And the point of view is a little unusual in that he is writing in the second person, talking to you, and you, in this case, is a person in a conservative congregation who is going to a counter-protest. Fearless love, fearless love, fearless love makes you cross the border. At your church they ask for volunteers to make a presence in the park. That's where the wicked planned to demonstrate and carry signs to set a spark. Someone behind you heaved a stone that struck the thin man behind his ear. And so now there's blood upon his sign, which read, "There's nothing here to fear." The wrath of God, somebody yelled, will punish all of those like him. But if you travel back 2,000 years, I swear you'd hear this all again. Back then they'd say, these soldiers walk on sacred ground. This land's our history and our home. They have no right to be around. They are the evil force of Rome. So just how strong this change of heart must be, that one that Jesus once described. Kindness to your enemy, carry his pack an extra mile. When fearless love, fearless love, fearless love makes you cross the border. Your mind snaps back to where you stand. Your church is here to fight a cause, and at your feet a fallen man whose head is cradled in his arms. And though his blood contains his death, and though the lines are drawn in hate, you drop your sign of Bible verse and help the wounded stand up straight. When fearless love, fearless love, fearless love makes you cross the border. Oh yes, the high religious still will scorn, just like they did all that time back. They'll say you'd help the other side. They saw you haul that soldier's pack. But now how could you carry that man's sign? In your heart the choice was clear. You didn't join the other side. The battle lines just disappear. When fearless love, fearless love, fearless love makes you cross the border.
Awesome. Thank you. A couple of announcements before we sing again. After the service and after coffee hour, we've got an excellent forum with Dr. Charles Kupchella, who's presented here many times before. He'll be talking this year about book banning and the attack on freedom in Florida. In the Menaker Gallery, this is the last Sunday of the exhibit of Nancy Iannitelli, a wonderful exhibit. Be sure to check that out if you have not already, or even if you have. Our silent auction will take place on February 11th. It's not that far away. Just a reminder that come and bid high and bid often. This is a fundraiser for the congregation. We'll have a new to you orientation next Sunday after the service. We'll gather here in the sanctuary after the service next. If you're new to us and would like to find a little bit more about Unitarian Universalism or about the congregation, it's a great place to come and figure that out. So we'll be here then next Sunday. And a general reminder to parents to sort of go more directly down to the RE wing and pick up your kids after the service. Let's rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn, Building a New Way.
Speaking of conflict averse, right? We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. our every need. Start with love, that is the sea. We can feed our every need. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way.
Let us be open to expression and to be understood. Let us be open to awareness and be known. Let us be open to sharing, to exchange, to possibility, to awakening, and be hopeful. Go in love. Go in peace. Have a wonderful day.